Have you ever wondered why some married women are surprisingly vulnerable to emotional temptation, even more so than single women? Why is it that men, sometimes even without realizing it, find themselves emotionally entangled with someone who already wears a ring? What's the truth behind this silent magnetism? And how can you protect your mind and heart from the chaos it can bring? If you're curious about the subtle dynamics of desire, deception, and discipline, and want to uncover what Marcus Aurelius would say about this hidden battlefield, then you're in the right place. But before we dive deep, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and like this video if you care about mastering yourself and your relationships through timeless, Stoic wisdom. And make sure to watch until the end, because what you're about to hear could quite literally reshape your love life. Let's build the context first, because this isn't just about lust or infidelity. It's about power, control, and the mind games we never saw coming. It was the Roman year 172 AD. The war in the north had drained the empire's resources. But Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, was not just fighting battles with sword and shield. He was battling the chaos inside men's hearts. He once wrote in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Now fast forward to today. Imagine a man named Caleb. He's disciplined, reads Stoic Philosophy, hits the gym, and stays focused on building his empire. But one day, while mentoring a group at work, he notices a woman named Eliza. Confident, charismatic, married. She wasn't flirtatious. She didn't need to be. Her mystery was her power. A week later, they're texting outside work, then venting, then sharing secrets, then laughter, then silence. The kind of silence that feels like crossing a line without even stepping. How did a man like Caleb, a man who studied Marcus Aurelius, find himself emotionally attached to someone unavailable? And more importantly, why are married women, ironically, the easiest prey for this kind of entanglement? Let's unpack this with 10 Stoic suggestions from Marcus Aurelius to understand the truth behind this dynamic and how to guard your soul against it. 1. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Have you ever caught yourself thinking about someone you shouldn't be thinking about? Not with lust, maybe not even with romance, but with curiosity, with attention, with just enough mental energy that their name starts appearing in your thoughts. When you're brushing your teeth, walking alone, or even lying next to someone who actually loves you? If you have, don't worry, you're not alone. Let me tell you a story that might sound eerily familiar. There was a man named Raj, hardworking, honest, committed. He loved his girlfriend deeply. They had plans for the future, dreams they whispered to each other under starlit skies. You know, the kind, late-night talks, playlists shared over text, inside jokes only they understood. But then she came along. Not the one. The other one. Let's call her Maya. Maya was married, sophisticated, slightly older, and emotionally available. Not in the way lovers are, but in the way lonely people are. Raj didn't flirt. He didn't plan anything. He just listened. And Maya, she talked about how her husband never noticed her new haircut, how he forgot their anniversary, how he scrolled his phone at dinner while she stared at cold pasta. In the beginning, Raj thought he was helping. But what he didn't realize was that each thought he gave to Maya, each time he replayed her words, in his head he was slowly painting his soul. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Whatever you keep thinking about, you become. So let me ask you something now, seriously. Have you ever thought about someone so much that you didn't even realize they were changing you? Maybe it was someone from the past, or someone you couldn't have, or someone you thought only existed in your imagination. But slowly, they started taking up space in your reality. Here's the truth. Emotional affairs don't start with physical contact. They start with thoughts, tiny, harmless ones that whisper, "She gets me. He understands me better than my partner. It's just a conversation, what's the harm?" But thoughts, my friend, are like paint. You dip your soul into them long enough, and you come out colored. And that's exactly what happened to Raj. One day he looked at his girlfriend, the woman he swore to cherish, and realized he didn't feel the same. Not because she changed, but because he did. Maya never made a move, but Raj's thoughts made all the moves necessary to destroy his own love story. So if you're watching this right now and feeling a strange discomfort, maybe it's not just a story. Maybe it's your story. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what are the thoughts you've been letting into your soul lately? Are they about someone you can build a future with? Or someone who's unknowingly rewriting your love story in the shadows? Because your mind is your kingdom. And what you allow to dwell there becomes the architecture of your reality. The paint is in your hands. Choose the color wisely. 2. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Have you ever made an excuse for something you knew wasn't right because it felt right in the moment? Maybe it was a late-night text to someone who wasn't your partner. Maybe it was listening to someone else's relationship problems just a little too closely. Or maybe it was just allowing something to grow when deep down you knew it shouldn't. Now, before you get defensive, pause, because this isn't about judgment. This is about reflection. This is about you. This is about your love story. And maybe, just maybe, you've lived this story before. Let me tell you about a man named Arjun. He was the loyal type. The one who opened doors, remembered anniversaries, and sent good morning texts before the sun was even up. His girlfriend, Sonia, adored him. Their love was simple, peaceful, real. But over time, as life got busy, their relationship grew quiet. Not broken, just quieter. You know how that goes, right? Then came Naina. She was charming, intelligent, married. They worked together. Nothing romantic at first, just lunches. Then longer talks. Then deep conversations about love, pain, marriage, and loneliness. Arjun told himself, I'm just being a good listener. She's going through stuff. I can't just ignore her. He was being tolerant with her, but not strict with himself. And that right there is where Marcus Aurelius's wisdom hits like a thunderclap. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Let her be confused. Let her be emotional. Let her be vulnerable. But you must hold the line. Because the moment you lower your own standards to meet someone else's emotional chaos, you become part of their storm. Let me ask you this and answer honestly in your heart. Have you ever found yourself justifying your actions by saying, but I didn't do anything wrong? Did you ever feel secretly excited when you saw a message from them, even though you shouldn't? Have you ever imagined what life might be like with them, instead of the one you chose? These are not just thoughts. These are slow leaks in the boat of your relationship. And one day, if you're not careful, you'll look around and wonder why everything sank. You see, Arjun never kissed Naina, never crossed a physical boundary. But emotionally, he built an entire mansion of secrets. And when Sonia found out, it wasn't rage she felt. It was betrayal. Because when you stop being strict with your emotional discipline, you don't just hurt your partner. You lie to the person you promised to become. So ask yourself, are you building emotional bridges or emotional bombs? Being kind doesn't mean being careless. Being helpful doesn't mean being entangled. And being human doesn't mean being weak. This isn't just Arjun's story. It's the story of every man who's ever stood at the edge of temptation and forgot to draw the line in his own soul. So the next time you feel yourself slipping, don't blame her tears or her words or her charm. Be gentle with her, but be a soldier with yourself. The battlefield is in your mind, and discipline is your only shield. 3. If it is not right, do not do it. Have you ever stood at the edge of a decision and felt your heart beat faster, not out of excitement, but because you knew it wasn't right? You felt it in your chest, in your stomach, in that tiny voice in your head that whispered, this isn't you. You know better, but you ignored it. Because the moment felt good. Let's take a walk through a story. It might sound a lot like your own. There was a man named Karen. He'd been in love once, the kind of love that made him believe in forever. Her name was Raya. They had history, laughter, pain, healing, and then one day distance. Not the kind of distance measured in miles, but in moments, in silence, in forgetting to say I love you. They were still together, still trying, but cracks were showing. And that's when Divya entered the picture. Married, elegant, emotionally wounded. She saw Karan in a way Rhea hadn't in months. She laughed at his jokes, noticed his haircut, told him he was different from most men. And for a man who felt unseen, that was everything. But here's the twist. Karan didn't do anything, at least not by society's definition. No dates, no touching, no crossing the obvious lines. But inside he knew. He knew he had started feeding a fire that didn't belong in his life. And then came the quote, staring back at him from a page in a worn-out book he'd left on his nightstand. If it is not right, do not do it. Marcus Aurelius. Simple, direct, unforgiving. Let me ask you this now. Have you ever told yourself it's not cheating because nothing happened? Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and seen a future you knew you shouldn't even imagine? That's how it starts. Not with action, but with permission. The permission you give yourself to wander, to wonder, to play with fire while pretending your hands won't burn. You see, Quran realized something powerful. Wrong doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't always come with betrayal and drama and broken vows. Sometimes wrong is quiet. It's that conversation you shouldn't be having. That connection you're feeding. That attention you're giving while pretending it means nothing. But deep down, you always know. Marcus Aurelius wasn't writing rules for saints. He was writing for men flawed, tempted, human. And he wasn't saying don't make mistakes. He was saying don't pretend not to know when you're making one. So here's your mirror moment. Think of someone you're texting too often. Someone whose name lights up your phone a little too brightly. Someone who's not your partner, but makes your heart beat faster than it should. Now ask yourself, is this right? Not fun, not flattering. Right. Because if it's not, don't do it. And if you've already done it, then stop right now, before your silence turns into regret, before a moment turns into a memory you can't undo. Your story isn't over, but the next chapter depends on the choices you make now. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Have you ever felt completely powerless in your own love life? Like no matter how hard you tried, someone else's behavior, decisions, or mood had the power to either make or break your entire day? Be honest. Have you ever stared at your phone waiting for a message that never came? Or felt your heart drop because someone who once gave you butterflies now barely acknowledges you? If you nodded even a little, this is your story. Let me tell you about a man named Dev. Dev was in love, not just the ordinary kind. I'm talking about the all-consuming, head over heels, can't breathe without you kind of love. Her name was Mira. She was bold, beautiful, married, and heartbreakingly vulnerable. Mira would message Dev late at night, tell him her husband didn't understand her, how lonely she felt in her own home, how Dev got her in ways no one else ever had. And Dev, he believed it was fate, that maybe he was meant to rescue her, to show her what real love felt like. But here's what happened. Some nights Mira would pour her heart out to him. Other nights she'd go completely silent. No replies, no explanation, just emptiness. Dev would sit there, staring at his screen, refreshing chats, overthinking every word, wondering what he did wrong. Have you ever done that? Waited for someone who treats you like a priority one day, and an afterthought the next? That's when Dev found the words that changed his life. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Let that sink in for a moment. You can't control who texts you back. You can't control if someone loves you, respects you, or stays loyal. But you can control how you respond. You can choose to stop giving your peace to people who don't deserve it. You can stop letting someone else's confusion become your heartbreak. You see, Dev was trying to fix a woman who didn't even know how to fix herself. And in the process, he was destroying the parts of himself that once felt strong. So now I ask you, who's holding the remote control to your emotions? Who's determining whether you smile today or cry yourself to sleep? If it's anyone other than you, then you've handed away your power. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just speaking about emperors and warriors. He was speaking to the everyday man, the man who falls in love, feels heartbreak, gets played, and wonders why he's never enough. But you are enough. You've just been giving the strongest parts of yourself to people who feed on weakness. Take your power back. Don't wait for her text to feel worthy. Don't wait for her love to feel seen. Look in the mirror and realize you've always had the strength. You just forgot. Dev walked away. Not with hate, not with anger, but with peace. He reclaimed his mind, and in doing so, he reclaimed himself. Now it's your turn. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Have you ever been hurt so deeply in love that your first thought was, I'll show them. I'll make them feel what I felt. Have you ever looked at someone you loved, someone who betrayed you, and thought, they don't deserve my kindness anymore? If you've ever felt that storm inside you, this story might be your story. Let me tell you about a man named Samir. Samir gave his everything to one woman. Her name was Priya. They weren't perfect, but they had a rhythm, a bond. They had the kind of chemistry that made people around them smile in envy. They were goals, as people like to say, But here's the thing, Samir wasn't the only man in Priya's world. She had another life, a hidden one that lived in text messages that were deleted, in conversations that were silenced, in emotions she swore she had under control. Samir found out. One night, a message popped up on her phone, a name he didn't recognize, but the words, unmistakable. His heart dropped, his hands shook, and the pain, it burned. What would you have done? Because here's what Samir did. He didn't scream. He didn't hit back. He didn't message someone else to even the score. Instead, he left. He packed up his heart, his dignity, and his silence and walked away. You know why? Because the next day he read something that felt like it was written just for him. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius. Revenge isn't just what you do to someone. Sometimes it's what you become. Samir could have played her game. He could have flirted with married women, slept around, lied, manipulated. He had every reason to become cold. But instead, he chose to stay warm. Not for her, but for himself. Let me ask you this. Has anyone ever broken your heart so badly that you thought about changing who you are just to protect yourself? That's the real test. Not how you love when everything is perfect, but how you stay yourself when everything falls apart. Marcus Aurelius didn't write this quote from a place of ease. He lived in a world full of betrayal, politics, and deceit. And still, he reminded himself and us that the greatest revenge is staying true to your values. So if someone lied to you, if someone used you, if someone made you believe in a future they never intended to build, don't turn into them. Don't become cold just because they were. Don't give them the power to poison your soul, because that's what they want. Samir didn't win by hurting Priya. He won by healing himself, by loving better the next time, by not carrying her darkness into his future. And that is real revenge. So ask yourself today, are you trying to get even or trying to get free? Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. When was the last time you found yourself wondering, what does it even mean to be a good man these days? Is it about being loyal? Is it about being strong? Is it about being soft, understanding, unshakable, or all of the above? Now take a deep breath. Think about the one woman you once loved or still love. Remember her laugh? Her favorite song? The way she looked at you that one time and made you feel like the only man in the world? Hold that memory, because this story might be about you. There was a man named Raghav. He was a nice guy, held the door, sent flowers, wrote poems. He was the man everyone said a woman should want. But when it came to love, he kept losing. First it was Ananya, then Kavya, then Simran, and every time he'd hear the same thing. You're amazing, Raghav, but something's missing. It broke him. And like many men, he started to question himself. He'd sit with his friends and argue, maybe women don't want nice guys. Maybe being a good man isn't enough anymore. Maybe I should be colder, tougher, like the men they run to. Sound familiar? But one night, sitting alone with a broken heart and a bottle of truth, Raghav stumbled on a quote. Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be one. Marcus Aurelius. It hit him hard. He realized he had spent more time debating manhood than living it. More time proving he was good than actually being it, even when no one was watching. You see, being a good man isn't about how loudly you say I'm a good man. It's about who you are when the world isn't clapping, when she's not responding, when your love goes unnoticed, when your effort isn't returned. Let me ask you something real now. Have you ever changed yourself for someone? Dimmed your light just to keep her? Acted tougher so she wouldn't think you were too soft? You don't have to answer out loud. But deep down you already know. Raghav changed after that night. Not for women, not for society, but for himself. He stopped chasing validation, stopped comparing himself to men who treated women like options, stopped explaining his worth. Instead, he lived it. And one day someone came along, someone who didn't need convincing. She didn't fall for the loudness of his gestures. She fell for the quiet strength he carried. That's what happens when you become the man you admire. Not argue about it, not fake it, just live it. So stop wondering what kind of man you need to be to win her back. Be the kind of man you'd be proud to become even if she never comes back. Because being a good man isn't about getting the girl, it's about not losing yourself trying. 7. When you arise in the morning, Think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Let me ask you something you probably haven't asked yourself in a while. When was the last time you truly felt grateful just to wake up next to someone you love? Not for what they gave you, not for how they looked, but simply for the fact that they chose to share their time, their soul, their moments with you. If you've ever loved deeply and lost, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me tell you a story about a man named Arav. Arav once had everything, at least on the surface. A good job, a calm routine, and her, Nina. She wasn't perfect, and neither was he. They fought over small things. She wanted more attention. He wanted more space. And like so many of us, Arav made one fatal mistake. He took her for granted. He forgot that "I love you" wasn't a sentence, it was a promise. A promise that needed to be lived, not just spoken. He got used to her being there. Used to the morning texts, the way she brought him coffee, the way she smiled when he walked into a room. And then, one day it all stopped. No warning, just a message. "I can't do this anymore. I don't feel seen." It crushed him, because by the time he realized what she meant, she was already gone. Arav went through the typical phases: anger, regret, blame. But the worst one, memory. He remembered the mornings, how she would stretch beside him, her hair messy, her eyes soft, whispering, "We've got this, right?" And every morning he had it, but he didn't realize what he had. Then he read something one sleepless night, scrolling through an old philosophy blog. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Marcus Aurelius. And it broke him, because he finally got it. He had love, real love, but he treated it like it would always be there. Like she had no limits. Like she didn't need watering, nurturing, attention. Let me ask you something. Who's in your life right now that you're starting to take for granted? Is there someone waking up beside you, praying for your attention, your time, your presence, and you're just going through the motions? Because here's the truth no one tells you. You don't lose someone the day they walk out. You lose them slowly, day by day, every time you look at your phone instead of their eyes, every time you roll over instead of pulling them closer. Arav learned the hard way that love isn't just about being together. It's about showing up every single day. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, don't just rush into your day. Look at them if they're still there. Hold them. Thank them. Because love, my friend, is not owed, it's borrowed. And every morning you wake up next to it is a gift. The kind you'll wish you never returned too late. 8. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Are you really living or just surviving through each day? Holding on to the ghost of a love that left long ago? Because I want you to remember a moment, maybe your first love, or that one person you still dream about. Remember how alive you felt, how every message from them lit up your soul, how you'd laugh like a child, plan the future, dream like you had forever. Now ask yourself this: what happened to that version of you? Let me tell you the story of Kabir. Kabir had dreams, big ones. He wanted to travel, to write, to build something that mattered. But then came Ishita. She was beautiful chaos, wild hair, wild heart, wild plans. She loved him hard, and for a while he thought that was enough. But slowly her love turned cold. Possessive, controlling, confusing. She'd say, "Why do you want to waste time on writing? Why do you always want to travel? Stay with me instead. Your dreams don't feed us. Be realistic." And so, piece by piece, Kabir buried his fire. Have you ever done that? Have you ever given up a part of yourself for love? Abandoned something that once made your soul shine, just to keep someone close? Because Kabir did. He stayed in a relationship where he wasn't himself anymore. Until one morning, staring at his reflection in a cracked bathroom mirror, he whispered, "What happened to me?" That same night, scrolling through an old book he barely remembered buying, he came across the words, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Marcus Aurelius. That hit him like thunder. He realized something powerful. He wasn't afraid of being alone. He was afraid of disappointing someone. Afraid of rejection. Afraid that maybe he wasn't worthy of both love and dreams. But here's the truth. You're not here just to be someone's second choice or emotional punching bag. You're not alive just to chase love that makes you smaller. Kabir packed his bags. Not with anger, not to prove a point, but to finally start living. He went to the places he'd dreamed about, wrote the stories he'd buried for years, and slowly he returned to himself. Now let me ask you, are you alive, or are you just breathing? What dream have you abandoned? What version of you is trapped under the weight of trying to keep someone who never saw your worth? You don't need to burn your soul to keep someone else warm, and you sure as hell don't need to shrink yourself to fit into a love story that was never written for you. Start living. Not tomorrow. Not when they come back. Now, because fear isn't dying alone. It's dying without ever having lived. And maybe, just maybe, the moment you start living is when the right love will finally find you. Dying, the opinion of 10,000 men, is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. Have you ever made a decision about your love life? Not based on what you truly felt, but based on what others said? Maybe your friends told you she wasn't hot enough. Maybe society told you she didn't look the part. Or maybe your own family whispered in your ear, she's not the one, and you listened, even though your heart said something else. Let me tell you the story of Arjun. Arjun was deeply in love with Mira. She wasn't flashy. She didn't flood her social media with filters or flaunt designer brands. But her soul, gentle, real, grounded. She remembered the small things, like how he hated coriander, or the way his voice dropped when he talked about his father. She was home. But one day, sitting at a hookah bar with his boys, one of them chuckled, "Bro, you could do better. She's too simple for you." Another laughed. "She looks like a school teacher, not a girl you show off." And that was it. A seed of doubt was planted in Arjun's mind. Instead of watering the relationship, he began feeding the noise. He stopped texting her first. He hesitated when she reached for his hand in public. He started acting colder, thinking he was just figuring things out. But the truth? He was just ashamed to love someone his circle didn't approve of. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever buried a beautiful connection just because others didn't clap for it? Weeks later, she left. No drama, no big goodbye, just a soft message. "I loved you, Arjun. I just wish you loved me louder." He was shattered. Not because he didn't see it coming, but because he knew deep down he'd listened to 10,000 voices and ignored the only one that mattered, his own. That night, Arjun read a line from Marcus Aurelius. "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." And it clicked. None of those guys knew Mira. They didn't know the way she calmed him down when he was having anxiety attacks. They didn't know how she supported his dreams when no one else did. They didn't see her soul. He did, but he gave their ignorance more power than his own truth. Let me ask you, my friend, is there someone you once loved, truly loved, but lost? Not because they were wrong for you, but because you let others convince you they were? Because here's the truth. The crowd is loud. The noise is constant. But your soul, that whisper inside you, that's your truth. And if you keep ignoring it just to fit into the world's mold, you will keep losing what's real. So before you let the world decide your heart again, remember Arjun. He learned too late that love doesn't need an audience. It needs courage. And sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is choose her anyway. 10. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Have you ever been hurt by someone you loved? Maybe she betrayed your trust, broke your heart, or left you feeling like you were nothing but a mistake. Have you ever felt that burning fire inside you? The urge for revenge? To show her what she lost? To hurt her back? To make her regret it forever? If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. I want to share a story with you, because this was once my story too. There was a man named Samir. Samir was head over heels in love with a woman named Tara. They were everything to each other, or so he thought. One day, Samir discovered Tara was seeing someone else. His world shattered. The betrayal was a blow he never saw coming. His nights were restless, his days a haze of anger and confusion. He wanted revenge badly. He wanted to make her feel the same pain, to break her the way she broke him. He even planned ways to ruin her reputation, to humiliate her in front of their mutual friends, to make her pay. But every time he got close to acting on those dark thoughts, he remembered a phrase he once read from Marcus Aurelius. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. That phrase stopped him cold. He realized if he chose revenge, he would become the very thing that hurt him. He would let her actions control who he was, turning him into a man filled with bitterness and cruelty. He remembered a different version of himself. The man she once loved, the man with hope, kindness, and strength, Samir made a decision. He would not let her define him. He would not give her the power to corrupt his soul. Instead, he focused on himself. He healed quietly. He built new dreams, made new friends, and found peace in the little moments. And something incredible happened. The anger faded. The pain lessened. Samir became stronger, not because he hurt her back, but because he refused to let her hurt him any longer. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever held on to pain for so long that it began to shape who you were? Have you ever let someone else's cruelty become your identity? Because here's the truth. Revenge doesn't heal. It chains you to the past. It dims your light. But choosing to rise above, that's freedom. When you refuse to become like the one who hurt you, you reclaim your power. You show not to others, but to yourself, that your worth isn't tied to their actions. And that kind of strength, that kind of love for yourself is the kind that lasts. So next time you feel that fire of revenge burning inside you, remember Samir. Remember Marcus Aurelius. Choose to be better. So what do you do if you've already fallen into this trap? You want real power? Then stop being a slave to what feels good. Start living like the man Marcus Aurelius believed you could become. Because in the end, it's not about married women. It's about you. And the man you choose to be when no one is watching. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.